The Journey to the Uncarved Self. Chapter 1. The Cup That Was Too Full. Most men climb mountains to conquer the world below. A rare few climb to conquer the noise inside their own heads. Cale thought he was the former, but the mountain had already decided he would be the latter. Cale was a young man whose ambition burned hotter than the sun. He wanted success. He wanted recognition. He wanted the secret to the unshakable focus that the ancient texts spoke of. He had read every scroll and debated with every scholar, yet he felt hollow. His mind was a storm of what-ifs and should-haves. He had heard whispers of Master Hideo, a recluse living at the summit of Mount Tenku, who possessed the Sutra of Stillness, a teaching so profound it could turn a peasant into a king. "I will get that sutra," Cale muttered, beginning the ascent, "and then I will finally be complete." The climb took 3 days. When Cale finally reached the Cloud Monastery, he didn't find a grand temple with golden statues. He found a dilapidated wooden shack and a mossy courtyard where a single, elderly man was sweeping leaves. Swish, pause, swish, pause. Cale strode forward, dropping his pack. "I seek Master Hideo," he announced. "I have traveled from the capital. I demand an audience." The old man didn't look up. Swish, pause. "Did you hear me, old man?" Cale stepped closer. "My time is valuable." The sweeper stopped. He straightened his back and turned to face Cale with eyes like deep wells. "Your time is valuable? Yet you spent 3 days climbing a rock just to shout at a gardener. That seems like a poor investment." Cale blinked. "I am not shouting at a gardener. I am looking for the master." "Then look," the old man said, spreading his arms. "You are looking at him." Cale felt a flush of irritation. "You are Master Hideo? I expected someone more imposing. And I expected a seeker, not a noisy merchant selling his own importance." Hideo chuckled. He gestured to a small table. "Sit. You must be thirsty." Cale sat, drumming his fingers. He was ready to launch into his rehearsed speech about his achievements. Hideo brought a pot and began to pour tea into Cale's cup. Cale watched the liquid rise. "Master, I have come to learn the ultimate truth of success. I have studied the tea reached the brim." Hideo kept pouring. "Master!" Cale exclaimed as the hot liquid spilled over, dripping onto his robes. "Stop! Can't you see? The cup is full. It can hold no more." Hideo stopped. He looked Cale in the eye. "Exactly," he said. "Like this cup. You are full of your own opinions and your desperation to be someone. How can I show you the way of the sutra when there is no room in you to receive it?" Cale stood frozen. The physical burn was nothing compared to the sting of the words. "If you wish to stay," Hideo continued, "you must first empty your cup." "How?" Cale asked. "Tell me what to read." "No reading. There is a pile of firewood behind the shack. It needs to be chopped, and the water barrel is empty." "I am a scholar and a swordsman," Cale protested. "I did not come here to be a servant." "Then go back down," Hideo said, walking away. "The world has plenty of scholars. It has very few whole human beings." Cale looked at the path, then at the axe. Gritting his teeth, he grabbed the axe. "I will show him," he thought. "I will prove I am worthy." For a week, Cale attacked the woodpile. Every evening, he presented himself to Hideo, expecting praise. Every evening, Hideo looked at the wood and said only one word: "Sloppy." "Sloppy?" Cale exploded on the 7th day. "I have chopped enough wood for a winter." Hideo picked up a rough, jagged log. "You chopped this with anger," he observed. "You were thinking about the reward, not the wood. You are present in your ambition, but absent from your life. If you cannot treat a piece of wood with respect, how will you ever treat yourself with respect? The way you do anything is the way you do everything." The next morning, Hideo led him to a garden of white sand and rocks. "This is the lesson of focus," Hideo said. "Rake the sand into perfect circles. The lines must not waver." Cale started. It seemed easy, but his mind wandered to the sutra, and his hand slipped. "Start over," Hideo called out. Hours passed. Cale's back ached. Every time he lost focus, the sand captured the tremor. By late afternoon, Cale threw the rake down. "This is impossible." Hideo stood up, took the rake, and began to move. He didn't look like he was concentrating hard. He looked relaxed. The rake flowed like water. Within minutes, the garden was a masterpiece. "You try to force the sand," Hideo said. "I simply invited it to find its form. You are fighting the task because you want to be finished. I am dancing with it because I am happy to be doing it. You are in a rush to become a master, Cale, but you have not yet learned how to be a beginner." Cale looked at the perfect lines. The arrogance cracked. "Teach me," he whispered. "Not the sutra. Teach me how to rake the sand." Hideo smiled. "Now, we can begin." Chapter 2. The ink, the storm, and the silence. The true enemy of the warrior is not the sword, but the clock that dulls the spirit. Summer faded into winter. The mist turned to ice. For Cale, time became a blur of wood, water, and sand. It was maddening. He fantasized about his old life, but here, his only victory was a straight line in the sand. One freezing morning, Hideo called Cale inside. On the table lay rice paper and ink. "You have learned to move your body," Hideo said. "Now, move your intent. Paint me a circle, an enso. It must be done in a single breath, without hesitation." Cale picked up the brush and swirled his wrist. "Done. Dead," Hideo said, burning the paper. It was a shape made by a hand afraid to make a mistake. "The ink smells your fear." Again. Hours turned into days. The pile of rejected paintings grew. "Careless," Hideo would say. "Too arrogant." On the fourth day, a storm hit. The wind howled, shaking the shack. Cale sat over the paper, trembling. The shutters banged violently. "I can't do this." Cale slammed the brush down. "How can you expect perfection in this chaos?" "Peace is not the absence of noise, Cale," Hideo said, his voice cutting through the wind. "Peace is the absence of resistance to the noise." Hideo walked to the rattling window. "You hear a disturbance. I hear the wind being the wind. You want the storm to stop so you can paint. But the master paints with the storm." Hideo took the brush. He didn't block out the noise. He inhaled the chaos. And as he exhaled, his hand moved. Swish. A perfect, living circle appeared on the paper. The paper is your life. The storm is your circumstances. If you wait for the storm to pass before you live, you will die waiting. Paint the circle now. Cale stared at the enso. He realized he had been waiting for the right time to be happy. He picked up the brush. He listened to the wind. He stopped fighting. He took a breath and moved. The circle was rough, but it felt honest. "The tea is ready," Hideo said. Winter began to thaw. Cale felt lighter. But the mountain had one final test. One afternoon, voices drifted up the path. 3 men in fine silks appeared. Cale froze. It was Jiro, his old rival from the capital. Well, Jiro laughed, seeing Cale's rags. "Cale, the prodigy, has become a janitor." Cale's grip on the broom tightened. The old urge to prove himself roared to life. Jiro kicked over a bucket of water Cale had just filled. "Look at you. Is this the great wisdom? How to sweep dirt?" Cale felt the heat rise. He looked up and saw Hideo watching. This was the exam. Cale looked at the spilled water, then at Jiro. He remembered the storm. Jiro was just noise. Cale took a slow breath and loosened his grip. "Hello, Jiro," he said calmly. "You seem tired. Would you like some tea?" Jiro blinked, confused by the kindness. "I didn't come to drink tea with a servant. I came to challenge the master." "The master is busy," Cale said, cleaning the spill. "But you can help me chop wood. It's good for the spirit." Jiro looked for the anger, but found only a man, completely unbothered, possessing a dignity gold could not buy. Unnerved, Jiro scoffed, "You've gone mad," and left. Cale watched him go. He didn't feel superior. He just felt quiet. "You didn't fight him," Hideo said, walking down. "There was no one to fight," Cale replied. "He was fighting a ghost. I just didn't let him haunt me." Hideo nodded. "You have emptied your cup. You have painted with the storm. Come, bring the axe. It is time to show you what you really came for. Chapter 3. The Scroll of No Words. The final gate of wisdom is not locked by a key, but by a mirror. They climbed to a jagged outcropping overlooking the clouds. At the edge stood a small stone shrine. Inside lies the source of my power, Hideo said solemnly. The Sutra of Stillness. Hideo unlocked the rusted padlock and pulled out a beautiful ebony box. Take it, he whispered. The sutra is inside. Cale's hands trembled. He opened the lid. He blinked. It was empty, just the smooth, black bottom of a wooden box. It's empty, Cale said, his voice flat. Is this a joke? I gave you a year of my life for an empty box? You are looking for the sutra in the box, Hideo said, tapping Cale's chest. But the sutra is here. Cale stared at him. I don't want metaphors. Tell me, Hideo commanded. When you arrived, could you sit still without your mind screaming? If a man spilled tea on you, would you have burned with rage? Could you find peace in a storm? No, Cale whispered. You arrived a broken, noisy child. Now you stand before me strong and calm. You did not find the sutra, Cale. You became the sutra. Cale looked at his scarred hands. He realized the transformation wasn't in the knowledge. It was in the work. The box is empty because there is no secret ingredient, Hideo continued. There is only the work, the daily, unglamorous process of chipping away everything that is not you. That is the Zen. Cale looked at the box again. It looked like potential, like space. He closed it and bowed. Thank you. Cale walked back into the world, but he experienced it differently. The noise of the market was just a symphony of life. He opened a small school on the outskirts of the city. The sign read, "The School of the Uncarved Block." One day, a young man in fine silks burst in. I seek Master Cale. I have money and talent. I demand to learn the secret of success. Cale was pruning a bonsai tree. He turned, his eyes holding a terrifying kindness. You wish to learn? Yes. I want the secret. Cale smiled, remembering the tea, the wind, and the empty box. I can teach you, he said, pointing to the yard. But first, there is a pile of firewood that needs to be chopped. I am a scholar, the young man scoffed. I am not a servant. Then go home, Cale said softly. The world has plenty of scholars. It has very few whole human beings. Cale returned to his tree. The journey was a circle. He had been the climber. Now he was the mountain, and the work would never be done. The moral of the story, reflections. The process is the prize. We often endure the journey, hoping for a reward. We fail to realize that the discipline and character we build during the struggle are the actual reward. Empty your cup. You cannot learn if you think you already know. True growth requires the humility to be a beginner. Peace is internal. True peace is finding the silence within the noise. It is painting the circle with the storm, not waiting for it to pass. There is no secret. The empty box represents the liberating truth. No one is coming to save you. The secret is simply doing the work when no one is watching.